Howdy partners, this is the video for Algebra 1, Wednesday, April 8. Hope you're doing well. Today we are going to work on solving linear equations that have two variables. So that's an algebraic equation that has two letters in it, right? Like an x and a y. Now, there are a few ways to solve these, and earlier in the school year we did several. But my favorite is the one that will work in probably every case that you're going to run into. Others are kind of shortcuts in special occasions, but you have to kind of like be able to see those, right? So if you'll focus on learning the substitution method, it'll work every time. And in fact, it's a good foundation for getting ready for Algebra 2. So anyhow, let's talk about equations that have two variables, all right, two things that we know. So the first thing we're going to want to do, rule number one, is we need, and I'm just going to use x and y. It could be any two letters, but I'm going to use x and y every time. We need our x on one side of the equation. We need our y on the other. Doesn't matter which one. Okay, we want to do that. So like we would balance any equation, right? So we're going to subtract from both sides, add to both sides, whatever we have to do. You know how we're solving for x, but this time we're solving to get x on one side and to get y on another. So here's the example that's on the worksheet that I'm sure you've already downloaded. And let me give it to you this way. 4x plus 2y equals 8. 4x plus 2y equals 8. Write this a little better. All right, 4x plus 2y equals 8. What I want is I want x on one side of the equal sign and y on the other. Doesn't matter which one. We just have to choose. So there's actually two correct ways of doing this. I can subtract 2y from both sides. That would give me only x is over here and only y is over here. Okay. Now there's other numbers that don't have anything, and doesn't matter which side they're on. This is step number one. X on one side, y on the other. So I could subtract 2y from both sides, or I could subtract 4x from both sides. That would give me x on one side, y on the other. Tell you what, let's do. Let's subtract 2y from both sides. What does that give me? That gives me 4x equals negative 2y plus 8. All right, I subtracted 2y from this side, and that just got rid of that 2y. Subtracted 2y from this side, and that's why I have 4x equals negative 2y plus 8. Now, I want to get x all by itself, right? So there's a 4 by it, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to divide both sides by 4. Divide by 4, divide by 4, that crosses out. Now, if I have an algebraic expression and it has two terms in it, in other words, it's got a number or a letter separated by an addition or subtraction sign, this is a term. Negative 2y, that's a term. Positive 8, that's a term. If I'm going to divide this expression by 4, it's really simple. What I do is I divide each term by the number on the bottom. In other words, I'm going to divide negative 2y divided by 4, 8 divided by 4. So it looks like I'm actually doing two problems this way. This is going to give me x equals negative 2 divided by 4 is negative 1/2, okay? 8 divided by 4 is a positive 2, so that's y, sorry. X equals negative 1/2 y plus 2. All right, see what I did there? Now what we're saying is, and what this is called, is we're expressing a value, negative 1/2 y plus 2, in terms of x. So sometimes on a test like the SAT, they might say, express this value in terms of x. And all that means is have x by itself on one side of the equal sign and everything else in the equation on the other side, okay? And then you've expressed a value in terms of x, right? Now we could have done it the same way, but put y all by itself, and then we would have had y equals negative 2x plus 4. I know that because I've already done it. It's on your worksheet for today. So now we've expressed our value in terms of one of our variables. Now, watch what happens here. And awkwardly, it occurs to me that I have thrown away my sheet for erasing this board. So this is going to be A little rougher tonight. I'm just going to do it with my hand. Not a good idea. Okay. Sometimes when we're given multivariable equations, we are given two equations that are connected. Okay. In other words, I'm going to have two equations, and the x in one equation is the same value as the x in the other, and the y in both equations is the same. Okay. And usually the way that that's expressed is they have the funny looking little bracket over to the side. And you see that bracket there, you've got two equations, one on top of the other, and a little bracket on the side. I'm going to write it up here on the board in just a second. What that means is these two are talking about the same values. X is the same value in both of them, y is the same value in both of them, or whatever letters are being used. Okay, so let's say that we have, I'm going to use the same equation that I just used, 4x plus 2y equals 8. 4x plus 2y equals 8. And another matching, this is on your worksheet, by the way, so if you've pulled it up, you've got it there beside you. 5x plus 3y equals 9. 5x plus 3y equals 9. And that's the little bracket thing. And what that tells us is this x is the same value as this x, and this y is the same value as this y. So we've kind of, see that there's a relationship between the two of these equations. Now, given this, we can take the problem I just did, okay, which I took this top one, and I moved everything over so that I had all the equation on one side and x by itself on the other, okay, so that's what we just did. And so what I did there just a second ago gave me x equals negative 1/2 y plus 2. Okay, x equals negative 1/2 y plus 2. These two are the same equation, just expressed in a different way. Okay, do you see how much handier this is? That I've got just x here. This is kind of a mishmash. It's everywhere, right? But this guy right here, with just an x, now I've got something really, really useful. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this value, okay? So whatever is on this side is exactly equal to x. I don't know what x is, I don't know what y is, but I know that x is the same as all this value. I'm going to put parentheses around these, okay? Now I'm going to go to my next equation. And do you see where it says x equals all of this stuff? I'm going to take all of this stuff and I'm going to cram it in where it says x right there. Okay? 5x plus 3y equals 9. I'm going to take that and I'm going to cram it in for x right here. This is what it's going to look like. It's going to say 5. Then I'm going to take my parentheses and just copy it. Negative 1/2 y plus 2. Then I'm going to continue. Okay, so I just replace the x there. Plus 3y equals 9. Look what magical thing I just did. Now I don't have a 2-variable problem. I've got a 1-variable problem. And we know how to solve for a single variable. It's what we do every single day. So I'm going to take this 5 and I'm going to distribute it through or multiply it through. And then I'm going to combine like terms. So 5 times negative 1/2 y is negative 2 1/2 y. 5 times 2 is plus 10. Then I'm going to copy the rest of this over here. Plus 3y equals 9. Now I'm going to combine like terms. I have a negative 2.5 y and I have a positive 3y. If I put my negative 2.5 y and my positive 3y together, okay, that's going to give me a positive 1/2 y. So I'm going to have 1/2 y plus 10 equals 9. I'm going to subtract 10 from both sides because I want to get rid of this 10. And it's going to give me 1/2 y equals, and I'm subtracting 10 from both sides, negative 1. Okay, so I'm going to now divide both sides by 1/2. Now remember, dividing by 1/2 is the same as multiplying by 2, right? Dividing by 1/2 is the same as multiplying by the denominator. So if I divide both sides by 1/2, that's going to give me y equals negative 2. All right. So, sorry. make an adjustment here. Y equals negative 2. So now I know what y equals. What's y equal? Equals negative 2. I'm going to go back up here, and I'm going to take a little space here. I'm going to take my negative 2, and I'm going to put it in up here instead of y. Because I know what y is now. It's a negative 2. I'm going to go up here and I'm going to say this. I'm going to say that 4x plus 2 times negative 2 equals 8. Notice again, because I've substituted, I don't have a two-variable equation. All I have to deal with now is just an x. Okay, there are no y's. I'm solve for x. Okay, so 4x minus 4 equals 8. 4x, I'm going to add 4 to both sides, equals 12. Excuse me. I'm going to divide both sides by 4, and x is going to equal 3. Okay, so there's my answer. I have two variables I had to define, so that's what I've got. I've got a y equals negative 2, and I have an x equals 3. Now notice, I've got all these steps that I've got to follow. If I don't follow all the steps, I'm not going to end up solving for both x and y using substitution. So in your worksheet today, I've given no problems. I've just given examples and directions that go along with this video. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to erase this board, and I'm going to put today's problems up here, and you're going to follow the steps. Now the steps are on your worksheet, and we've just gone through the steps on the video. So if you need to watch the video more than once, you might have to, but this is you're going to do the same thing every time. And there are only 3 problems for you to do today. So anyhow, here we go. I've been teaching for nearly 25 years now, and I have never until this very date had to erase my board with my hand. Look at that. Isn't that nasty? Never had to do that until today. And why? Because I threw away my eraser. Okay, so here we go. Here are today's problems. All right, so the first one, I'm going to read it out for you in case you're having trouble. 3x plus 4y equals negative 5. The related equation is 2x minus 3y equals 8, and we're going to call this one number 1. Number 2, 2x plus 4y equals 8. 5x equals 12 plus 6y. Number 3, 6y plus x equals 1. 4x plus 18 equals 9y. Okay, I don't know if you could hear me, but just to make sure, I'm going to read number 2. It's 2x plus 4y equals 8, and 5x equals 12 plus 6y. Number 3, 6y plus x equals 1, and 4x plus 18 equals 9y. All right, so those are problems 1, 2, and 3. Your worksheet has all of the directions and information you need. All right, have a great day.